Christmas Eve, 1945. A family home in West Virginia catches fire in the middle of the night. The parents and 4 children escape, but 5 children, ages 5 to 14, are trapped upstairs. The house burns to the ground. When investigators sift through the ashes, they find something impossible. No remains, no bones, no teeth, nothing. 5 children vanished as if they never existed. But here's the thing, the parents don't believe their kids died in that fire. They believe someone took them, and the evidence is absolutely bizarre. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. SiR.ReapeR here. Welcome back. This case is different from anything we've covered. It's not just a mystery, it's a nightmare that haunted one family for decades. Strange events leading up to the fire, a ladder that mysteriously disappeared, trucks that wouldn't start, phone lines that were cut, sightings of the children years later, and a billboard along a West Virginia highway that asked one heartbreaking question for over 40 years. Where are our children? Let's get into it. George and Jennie Sodder were Italian immigrants living in Fayetteville, West Virginia with their 10 children. George was a successful businessman who ran a trucking company. They were a happy, hard-working family, but George had made some enemies. He was openly critical of the Italian fascist government and Mussolini, which angered some Italian Americans in the area. In the months before the fire, strange things started happening. A man came to the house trying to sell life insurance. When George declined, the man pointed at the house and made a disturbing comment about how the wiring was faulty and how the house would go up in flames someday. George had the wiring inspected. It was fine. Then, in the fall of 1945, another man came around asking about hauling work. When George said he was all set, the man warned him that his house was going to burn and his children were going to be destroyed because of his outspoken views about Mussolini. Christmas Eve, 1945. The Sodder family celebrated like any other year. The older kids stayed up late, and around 1 a.m., Jennie told them to go to bed. She noticed the lights were still on, and the front door was unlocked when she went upstairs, which was unusual. She went to sleep. Around 1:30 a.m., Jennie was awakened by a loud bang on the roof, and the sound of something rolling across it, followed by a crash. Then she smelled smoke. The house was on fire. George and Jennie woke up in a panic. They managed to get out of the house with 4 of their children, Sylvia, Marion, George Jr., and John, but 5 children were still trapped upstairs in their bedrooms. Maurice, age 14, Martha, age 12, Louis, age 12, Louis, age 8, and Betty, age 5. George tried desperately to save them. He ran to get the ladder that was always leaning against the side of the house so he could reach the upstairs windows. The ladder was gone. It had been moved 75 feet away to the bottom of an embankment. George ran to his trucks. He would drive one close to the house and climb up. He tried to start both trucks. Neither would start. Both had worked perfectly fine the day before. Neighbors rushed over, but by then the house was fully engulfed in flames. The fire department was called but didn't arrive for hours. By the time they got there, the house had burned completely to the ground. The official report said the fire was caused by faulty wiring and that the 5 children died in the blaze. But here's where things get really strange. When investigators sifted through the ashes and debris, they found no human remains. Nothing. A fire hot enough to completely incinerate 5 bodies, including bones, teeth, everything, would have required temperatures of at least 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit and hours of sustained burning. House fires don't burn that hot. The fire chief said the fire had burned so fast and so hot that the bones disintegrated into ash. Experts said that was impossible. George and Jennie didn't believe their children died in that fire, and the more they investigated, the more evidence they found supporting their theory. A telephone repairman examined their phone lines and told them the lines had been cut, not burned. If the fire was caused by faulty electrical wiring, like the official report claimed, the power would have been out and the phones wouldn't have worked anyway. But Jennie had tried to call the fire department from the house phone. The line was dead. It had been deliberately cut. The ladder that was always against the house had been moved far away right before the fire. Both of George's trucks, which worked fine the previous day, wouldn't start. A witness came forward and said she'd seen the 5 children in a car driving through Fayetteville on Christmas morning, after the fire. She said they looked scared and were with 2 men and 2 women she didn't recognize. Another witness, a woman staying at a Charleston hotel, said she saw the children at a tourist court during Christmas week with 4 Italian adults. A private investigator the Sodders hired found a woman who said she served breakfast to the children with several Italian-looking adults at a restaurant just outside of Charleston on the morning after the fire. The children looked frightened and weren't allowed to speak. Then there was the photograph. In 1968, over 20 years after the fire, Jennie received a mysterious letter postmarked from Kentucky. Inside was a photograph of a young man, around 30 years old. On the back was written Louis Sodder, and I love brother Frankie. LL Boys, a 90132 or 35. The man in the photo looked remarkably like Louis would have looked as an adult. Jennie believed it was her son. The family hired a private investigator to track down the return address. He went to Kentucky and told the family he was investigating. Then he disappeared. They never heard from him again. George and Jennie Sodder refused to accept that their children were dead. In 1952, they erected a massive billboard along Route 16 near the site of the fire. So what really happened? The official explanation is that the children died in the fire and their remains were completely consumed. But that doesn't explain the cut phone lines, the moved ladder, the trucks that wouldn't start, the witness sightings, or the complete absence of any remains. The theory the Sodder family believed was that someone set the fire deliberately as a cover for kidnapping the children. Perhaps it was revenge for George's anti-Mussolini views. Perhaps the children were sold or given to other families. Perhaps they were taken out of the country. Some theories suggest organized crime was involved. Others point to a possible adoption ring or human trafficking operation. There were rumors that the children had been seen in orphanages or living with Italian families in other states. The case was officially closed in 1945, but the Sodders never stopped searching. George died in 1969. Still believing his children were alive somewhere. Jennie died in 1989, having spent 44 years searching for answers. The surviving Sodder children continued investigating for years, but no definitive answers were ever found. The 5 children, Morris, Martha, Louis, Jennie, and Betty Sodder, were never found, dead or alive. This case haunts people because it represents every parent's worst nightmare. Not just losing your children, but never knowing what happened to them. Spending the rest of your life wondering if they're alive somewhere, if they remember you, if they're looking for you too. The Sodders lived with that pain for decades, and they never got closure. So what do you think happened? Did the children die in the fire, or were they taken? Was it revenge, kidnapping, or something else? And what about that photograph sent to Jennie in 1968? Was that really Louis? Let me know your theories in the comments. If this case got to you like it got to me, hit that like button, subscribe for more unsolved mysteries, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.